Available now. Link below.
Good evening, America. I've got some great news for you. Gary Franchi here with a bombshell report that will leave the left reeling. The Supreme Court has just delivered a devastating blow to the Democrats' relentless crusade against Donald Trump. In a unanimous decision, the justices have exposed Colorado's unconstitutional scheme to remove the former president from the 2024 ballot. But that's not all, folks. We've got reactions pouring in from all sides, and you won't believe what some of these people are saying. From a visibly shaken MSNBC contributor to a Hollywood actor questioning the left's tactics, we have got it all covered. And of course, we'll dive into Trump's own response to this momentous victory. Just 4 powerful words to sum it all up. And trust me, you don't want to miss a single minute of this special report. Stay tuned because my final thought will put everything into perspective. Now, before we dive into the details of this groundbreaking Supreme Court decision, let me remind you about our friends at the Patriot Gold Group. Just like how the Democrats tried to unconstitutionally remove Trump from the ballot, the powers that be are manipulating the economy, and your retirement savings could be at risk. With record high inflation and a looming recession, now is the time to protect your financial future with gold. Patriot Gold Group offers a no-fee-for-life IRA where you can safeguard your retirement with physical gold and silver. Don't let the left's tactics jeopardize your hard-earned savings. Call that number on the screen, 888-857-9437, and mention Next News for the best service from Patriots protecting Patriots. Secure your wealth today. Now, in a resounding victory for the American people and our republic, the Supreme Court has unanimously ruled against the unconstitutional and unlawful attempts by states to ban President Donald J. Trump from the ballot. This decision is a clear message to the left that their desperate tactics to undermine our processes will not be tolerated. In an address to the press, Trump said that this is a great day for our country. Take a look.
So I just want to thank all of you for being here. I think it's a very big day for America. I think it's a very big day for liberty, and I think it's just a great day for this country. Again, I hope it's unifying like I think, but it is. It's a big step toward unification. I hope that the justices, because they'll be working on some other cases, but one in particular, presidents have to be given total immunity. They have to be allowed to do their job. If they're not allowed to do their job, it's not what the founders wanted, but perhaps even more importantly, it will be terrible for our country. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The court's ruling exposes the Democrats' blatant disregard for due process and the will of the people. As Justice Sotomayor points out, President Trump has had no opportunity to defend himself against the baseless claims of insurrection. Justice Kagan emphasized that one state's decision to remove a candidate from the ballot infringes upon the rights of voters in every other state. Even the liberal Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson acknowledged that the president is not an officer of the United States, rendering Section 3 of the 14th Amendment inapplicable to him. So it's crystal clear that this entire charade has nothing to do with any alleged wrongdoing by Trump and everything to do with the Democrats' undemocratic, unconstitutional, and illegal efforts to silence Republican voters. ABC News couldn't help but acknowledge the significance of this ruling. Watch as they admit it's a big win for Americans. Take a look.
A rare moment of unanimity on a usually divided court. All 9 justices of the Supreme Court agree that states cannot kick candidates off the ballot under the 14th Amendment. That clause which you mentioned, which passed after the Civil War, held that people who had sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution and then engaged in insurrection are banned from holding federal office further. And what the Supreme Court said is that states can't enforce that it requires Congress to pass a law to outline how that clause should be enforced, concluding very simply that responsibility for enforcing that part of the Constitution rests with Congress and not with the states. The Supreme Court expressing real concern that states could go different ways. Some states would perhaps ban one candidate, some states perhaps ban another candidate. Other states keep them both on the ballot, and they express concern about the disruption that would work.
Colorado Secretary of State Jena Griswold expressed her disappointment in the decision, claiming that her state should have the authority to bar oath-breaking insurrectionists from the ballot. However, the Supreme Court made it abundantly clear that the responsibility for enforcing Section 3 lies with Congress and not individual states. And then she nearly broke down in tears on MSNBC, saying it will be up to the American voters to save our democracy. But of course, that's what it's always been. Watch.
My larger reaction is disappointment. I do believe that states should be able, under our Constitution, to bar oath-breaking insurrectionists. And ultimately, this decision leaves open the door for Congress to act to pass authorizing legislation. But we know that Congress is a nearly non-functioning body. So ultimately, it will be up to the American voters to save our democracy in November.
Mm-hmm. Now, the implications of allowing Colorado's decision to stand would have been nothing short of chaos, conflicting state outcomes, variations in state law, and the potential for post-election challenges could have nullified the votes of millions and changed the election result. The court rightfully recognized that the Constitution does not require us to endure such disorder. Viva Frey, a prominent legal analyst, called the Colorado Supreme Court decision a total judicial humiliation and a disgrace. He's absolutely right. Any lawyer or state official who promoted this baseless theory should be ashamed of themselves. On the other hand, some on the left are having a meltdown over this decision. Take a look at this MSNBC contributor Lisa Rubin's reaction. She's visibly shaken. Watch.
Looking through, we have our Lisa Rubin here with us. As you look through this decision that was just put on the website there at the Supreme Court, what stands out most to you besides the fact that this was a 9-0 decision?
It was a 9-0 decision, Anna, and the decision was decided on the grounds that Congress, not the states, has the power to enforce Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Still, you have 4 justices concurring in the judgment, meaning they agree with the result, but also concurring separately and saying that the way that they disagree with the majority or the per curiam opinion is that they don't feel that they needed to decide that Congress is the exclusive enforcement mechanism. Both Justice Barrett, who is concurring only for herself, and then Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, concurring separately, say they don't need to decide anything more than this is not a right that belongs to the states. But all 4 of them casting doubt on the idea that the exclusive mechanism of enforcement here is congressionally enacted legislation. That's important because one other way that you could find that someone is disqualified is through, for example, a federal court ruling. Or you could find that someone is an insurrectionist through their criminal liability. So there are a number of different ways that I think these justices are raising Section 3 could have been enforced, and yet the per curiam decision says not only does the power not belong to the states, you have to have Congress act affirmatively in order to disqualify someone from the ballot.
She looked like she was about to cry as well. Meanwhile, Keith Olbermann took his outrage to a whole new level, calling for the Supreme Court to be dissolved. It's stunning to see such blatant disregard for our nation's highest court and the rule of law. Legal expert Jonathan Turley, he weighed in on the decision, noting that it appears to be unanimous with no real dissents. Watch.
Let's move to our team now. Jonathan Turley, you are first up to react to this now, sir. How do you hear it?
Well, I've just been reading the opinion. It's obviously sweeping. There aren't any real dissents, so it does look like it is unanimous, at least on the result. What they have a disagreement on is whether the court had to go as far as it did. Now, the most practical result of this is that the voters will be able to vote for the candidate that they prefer. This was a critical moment for this court in history. After all of the years we have spent in this republic, we came to a point where these states claimed that they could unilaterally bar the leading presidential candidate from ballots to prevent people from voting for Donald Trump. The court here spoke with a strong, and it appears unanimous voice, at least on the result, that that's not going to happen, that voters will vote. They'll make their own verdict, regardless of what happens in cases involving President Trump. They will cast the most important verdict of all. They will vote for the next president of the United States.
NBC News couldn't deny the significance of the ruling either, admitting that it's a clear win for the Republican frontrunner. Watch.
Again, the court here is saying because the Constitution makes Congress rather than the states responsible for enforcing Section 3 against federal office holders and candidates, we reverse. So again, a clear win for the Republican frontrunner. The Colorado case was the one that was in front of them right now, but other states had tried to ban him from the ballot, including Maine and Illinois. With the court doing this right now, those essentially will also be wiped away.
CBS News echoed the sentiment, stating that the Colorado Supreme Court was kind of off on a trip of their own with the ruling. Watch.
The bottom line is they all agreed that Trump's arguments would carry the day in this case. I don't think that is a surprising result. After the arguments, where I think they all signaled they were highly skeptical of state efforts to disqualify a presidential candidate. The Chief Justice, for example, saying that essentially you would let one state dictate, or a handful of states dictate the outcome of the election. So I don't think this is a surprise. The Colorado Supreme Court was kind of off on a trip of their own with this ruling. Other state courts that had decided it had went a different outcome. So here we are. The decision now unanimous in agreement that Trump's arguments will carry the day. He cannot be disqualified from state ballots.
Even Hollywood actor Robert Davi recognized the importance of the decision while also questioning how many more of the left's actions are unconstitutional. Watch this.
My dear fellow Americans, I'm sure every one of you who loves the Constitution and this nation are happy that the Supreme Court has given a 9-0 decision in favor of Donald Trump being put on all 50 states and the ballots. Now, my question to you all is this. 9-0. How many of the other lawsuits are unconstitutional? How many other politicians are doing things that are unconstitutional? And when are we going to wake up and make sure that we get them out of office and they're held accountable for treason and sedition? That's what we have to go for. We have to find out who these seditious people are in our government, on the extreme left, on the extreme right, wherever might they be. Wherever they may be, we have to cull them out, and they must be voted out of office. They must be called out for their seditious behavior. Period. The border security is a constitutional responsibility of the White House. Now, Biden's probably going to give some bullshit speech about it and say he's doing something about it. But listen to what he campaigned on, open borders years ago. A danger to this nation. He should be hooked out of office immediately.
And throughout this entire ordeal, Donald Trump has remained steadfast and resolute as the left's relentless attacks continue to fail. The former president responded to this monumental victory with just 4 powerful words: big win for America. He also had a clear message to Joe Biden: stop the weaponization and close the borders now. Take a look.
President Biden, number one, stop weaponization. Fight your fight yourself. Don't use prosecutors and judges to go after your opponent, to try and damage your opponent so you can win an election. Our country is much bigger than that. The other thing I say to President Biden, close the borders now. This is not sustainable for our country. It's not sustainable for our cities. Our country is under siege. This is a violent thing that you've done, and many people are dying.
The Democrats have tried everything to stop Donald Trump: impeachment, indictment, and now trying to keep him off the ballot. But they have failed at every turn. Why? Because they're terrified of him and what he represents, a true threat to their power and control. As we move forward, we must remain vigilant. The left will undoubtedly continue their desperate attempts to undermine our republic and silence those who dare to challenge their agenda. But with the Supreme Court on the side of justice and the American people standing strong, we will prevail. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So folks, this Supreme Court decision is a turning point in the battle for the soul of our nation. It's not just a victory for Donald Trump, but for every American who believes in the sanctity of our democratic processes and the rule of law. The left's relentless attacks on our former president have backfired spectacularly, exposing their utter contempt for the Constitution and the will of the people. As they continue to grasp at straws, Their desperation becomes more and more apparent, but we, the American people, we will not be silenced. We will not stand idly by as they attempt to subvert our republic. This unanimous decision by the Supreme Court is a wake-up call to all of those who value our freedoms and principles upon which this great nation was founded. Together we will fight back against the left's tyranny and ensure that justice prevails. Stay strong, America.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. Now keep up your quest for truth with this next news report. And if you found our channel enlightening, join the millions who agree with you. Tap subscribe. Thank you for watching the Next News Network.